All right, I think we are ready to go, Gaspar. So
I
thank
think
you very
so.
much. Thank you very much, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning for everyone connected in everywhere in the world. My name is Clark Shane. I'm the head of product at Kpler. And with me today, Gaspard Duguay, our product manager for the data ecosystem. And today we are going to go over how best to integrate Kpler's data in your workflows. First, by giving you a bit of background onto how do we build the database and the data sets that you are using on your on the daily basis. Then going through various use cases based on to some of the use cases that our users have passed us on over the last few years. And we will also announce a new product release today that hopefully will also help you integrate more your data and do more with the data that you are basically accessing through Kpler. So for that, let me first give you just a quick overview of the product. So you know the product well. You have been our users for a while now. Just a quick reminder: we cover more than 25 commodities. We have more than 5,500 users worldwide, which is quite a large amount for our market. And you can access the data through the web apps, a mobile app, the Excel add-in as well, and your well-known API. But today, as I said, we are releasing also a new ways of connecting and accessing your data through a Python SDK. And this is also why we're having this this call today, is to introduce you all those workflows there. So what we are going to do now, I would like to take you onto the journey of actually first, before even getting access to the data that are basically coming from the work that we are doing in the Kpler environment, so to derive those insights, I would like to give you a bit of insight of actually the type of data and the sources we are basically using. We are roughly using more than 500 data sources around the world. Those data sources varies from port data, public information, weather forecast, market insights, customs, news, satellite imagery, and drones, as well as AIS, which is our base data for the navigation, and also coming along outages of installation, and roughly treating 150 reports a day, right? So to ensure that we have real-time information associated with those data and that you can rely on those information. And out of those 150 reports, between those plus the information from AIS, the satellite informations and so forth, we are roughly treating 120 points every second, right? Data points, I mean, every second, which is quite tremendous when you think about it. As I speak here, the numbers are churning and the reports are passing through and the points are being treated and processed into our engines. So it's quite an important case. Now that you know about the sources, let me take you through the journey before that it actually come to you into your different through your different accesses, so you understand exactly what it means to build this insight. First of all, we have various levels of components into the Kpler platforms, the data platform. You have the data sourcing part, which is basically a way of processing and scrapping those information from those reports and all those sources. And for that, we've built an extensive engine machinery behind it. So to use as much data as possible from all of those sources. We use various things. We use computation engines. We use natural language processing, so to extract the information from the report, object recognition, and so forth on that side. Then once we've basically identified what are those information, such as quantities, such as sources, vessels, information, and so forth, we basically dispatch it within with our system, so to arrive into our enrichment layer, or the insight layer, as we call it. This enrichment section is extremely key. This is where we load into our engines and our brain, the Kpler brain in it, the data, and we basically work to solve and to basically derive all the information that you are using on a daily basis. The ship-to-ship event, the quantities, the installation data, and so forth. We are basically solving a massive Sudoku at a world scale and in 4 dimensions, because we are doing through time. And we are not just doing this with just basic computational engine. We use also AI and machine learning to do so, but those are a means to an end, so to derive the insight that you need. Now, it's not the only thing we need. We just don't provide those insights directly. We also make sure that market analysts, part of our data operation team, basically validate some of those results that we might not think that are the correct one, or that basically can be refined. And this is a key differentiator here, because what you're getting is not just the data message. You are actually getting also trends and value from the market analyst. And all of this is then passed on through an API layer, that is the API we use to basically communicate, and we are going to explain you more of this there. Now, once you have, this is the whole Kpler platform, so you understand how it works, you can access it through different means. But before understanding how to access it, we need to understand how you work. And we've done quite a lot of effort over the years to understand your environment and how your company or your users are actually interacting with the data. And this is here a summary a bit of this environment. And it's very generic, but from the discussion we had with many of you, this is what transpires. A lot of you and our users worldwide basically have your own customer environment of data. You are building your own data ecosystem from which you are pulling your proprietary data or data from other vendors. You have plugged into as well the algorithm, and you are also plugged in from like third-party BI tools, the customer trading tools, the business system tools, and way other applications, right? And it's very important for us to allow you to integrate any Kpler data and any insight that you're getting in your environment on your own terms. By all means, we cannot basically just force you to use only the webfront application. We need to be able to provide you any solution to connect the best way to your data and for the workflow you want to do. And this is the critical part. And for this specific piece, I'm going to pass it on to you, Gaspar. So you explain a bit what are those connectors that I'm talking about that ensure that you can integrate the data into the customer environment.
Thank you, Clerk. So as you just said, data, I mean, you've been presenting data for the first slide. It is key to us. We are here to provide you with the best information that we have. And to do so, we want as well to help you integrate this data the best way we can. So at such a point that we now have a dedicated team for this, the data ecosystem, which is in charge of providing all of this to you. So what are those? These are the kind of thing you might find on the market. So there are live feeds so that you can plan to serve party BI tools. There are marketplaces. This one we'll cover it in 2021 and talk about it next year. And then there are the known ones as well, the API, SDK, and add-in. That's the one we are going to cover today in this webinar. So as Clerk was presenting, we have lots of intelligence that is done. He covered a few slides before the left side of this graph. So that's the logic, the data sourcing, how we process everything. We feed it to our database and then communicate it to our different solutions. These solutions are the web application, mobile, which is our historical one. We have the Excel add-in, API, and SDK for Python. So before we move on, I was just willing to present you a bit available in terms of data. So on the platform and through the ecosystem, you have either access to facts or to aggregated data. The facts, it can be the trades, it can be in our new product freight, fleet development, and all the vessels that makes up for it. Same for ballast capacity, the congestion, fleet utilization, etc. Everything that you can see on the left. So all of those are available across the platforms. A few of them are very specific to LNG, like the price and the outages for the moment. And we have here the, so it's the flows, it's the fleet metrics, and the freight metrics. And as you can see, there is a relation between obviously the facts and the aggregations. All of them are available across our solutions. So we thought that in order to present you our ecosystem and how you can best integrate our data into your system, it was good to provide you some examples going through a few use cases. So we'll cover 4 of them today. First one being a charter. Clerk, would you like to present?
Thank you very much, Gaspar. So I'm gonna play the role of many people today. I'm gonna have many hats, so bear with me there. So charterers and shipping agents and people in this industry really focus onto fixing most efficient and understanding what's the most efficient and profitable voyages. In this case today, what we are going to try to do is want to see the congestions of loaded vessels globally in the LNG world, and try to find out how are the charterers of the vessels in this stage, and what's how does the highly congested zone look like in this case? And for that, we are going to use a combination of the web application and the Excel engine. Gaspar, I'll hand it to you.
Yeah. So we are going to use these solutions because in this case we want it's a one-shot analysis. That's something that we just want to look very quickly because we read something in the news or something like that this morning. So first thing, we are going to have a quick look on the web application. So here we are on LNG, and we are going to have a quick look at the top congested countries for loaded vessels recently. So to do so, we'll just focus on the last 6 months on a daily basis. So loaded vessel, as I said, and the daily basis, and we'll split by countries. So let's go through it. And as you can see, so of course, main exporters are covered here. So Qatar, Malaysia, Australia, and the US. So now we are going to export this information through and have a look at it on GXL. Why GXL? Because we are able to add a bit more of information on here. So everything is available on the web app, but sometimes it's just more useful to go through these aggregated data. So we were looking at aggregated congestion. Now we are going to look at the vessel information. So for Australia, we saw that we had 5 vessels in congestion yesterday. So just going to look at it right now. So for the 8th of December, Australia, and here it is. So we have since when the vessel is in congestion, how long it has been waiting for. But in this endpoint, we don't have the charter what you were interested in, Clerk. So we are going to add on these our vessel information that is in the fleet endpoint. So the current controller here is our charter. So here it is on the left, on the right in the K column. So by using an Excel function, so the lookup with the key of the IMO, which is the unique identifier for the vessels that are available across our endpoints as soon as there is a vessel information. And here it is. We have our 5 charters on the Australian loaded vessels. I hope it satisfies your need, Clerk.
Very much so, Gaspar. Very much so. Now, let me summarize a bit before going to the next use case. Basically, what we've seen is that for punctual use and also when you want to have very quick access of the data and being able to slice and dice it the way you want, you can either go through the application and do your search and then export the data directly. And as you have access to the Excel add-in, you can basically extract quickly the relevant data for any part of your workflow. And it's not just limited to the charter here, it could be to anyone. So to have a very easy and consumable approach, so you can slice and dice it in your beloved Excel. So that's the key part onto the first use case. So quick access, very simple to use, and quite nicely done. Thank you very much, Gaspar. Now, let's take the case of a market analyst who basically want to build a report that is updated every month. And Gaspar, be cautious also at 2 key points. I would like to have the top 3 crude importers monthly, and then I would also like to see simultaneously the inventories for India crude or crude co imports. Right. So how to do that the most efficiently, and to make sure that actually it's done almost simultaneously and it's all done automatically. What do we use?
So when you said I want to have dashboard, I want to have reports, first thing that pops to my head is just use the new dashboard ability that function, that we have on the web app, but you want to build some more advanced things. So I think here we are going to go through the add-in. And so the add-in is something that we are going to use to build this kind of advanced reports if you have a punctual need on the data, because sometimes, as we were saying before, it's easier to have everything gathered in the same place. And if you want to build dashboards, for instance. So how it's going to look like. So here I have a predefined dashboard. So for the top 3 crude importers on the left, and that's the first case we'll go through. So here we are on liquid. We want to look at the crude importers. So we already know that it's United States, China, and India, because we had a quick check on the web application. We are going to go through the imports. So as you can see here, we have multiple splits. So you can look for the product, the grade, but here we are going to look at the destination countries of those flows. So across our whole history and in monthly, and here it is. So we have this graph, and we are able, thanks to on this report, to see that India is since September 2018 above the US in terms of crude oil imports. So now we are going to add this in the report and to see how it impacts the floating the inventories, if there is any, and to have a look at the Indian imports in a weekly mode this time. So the inventories is our product which allows us to track the onshore inventories, and here we're going to split by 10 types, having the separation between the commercial tanks, the refineries, and the strategic petroleum reserves. And here it is. So since September 2018, we've seen that there has been a huge ramp up in the inventories storage in India and a drop in imports. So maybe we can have a look as well at what the clean product exports are for India and what's the dirty petroleum product export or for the same region, because maybe the crude is just being refined and shipped somewhere else. So here it comes, and here we have it. So we can see that TPP is marginal and CPP is quite steady with a low drop. So I leave it to the most expert people in our audience to interpret the data here. And but that's an example of how you could be using the Excel add-in. Good for you, Clark. You're muted, Clark.
Thank you very much. I'm so into it that I forgot to unmute myself. So to summarize before we move on, basically here, without even using the web application, but knowing exactly what I need, and using the Excel add-in, the various functions that you can use to pull the data and then chart them, it's very easy to aggregate the information the way you want and the way you can easily report it. Now, another point I would like to make here is that it's also as easy to plug this data into a Power BI or Tableau, so you can also build those dashboards beyond Excel. What's very important here to remember is that for for this to work, we just need to make sure that we have the right data. We basically structured it in our file the most easily possible, so we can update it easily. And that's the purpose of the Excel ID. It's a very quick update. It's easy to scale, and you can aggregate as you wish. So thank you very much for that, Gaspar. Let's move to the next use case. Thank you. So this time around, I'm going to be a data manager or in a trading house or in financials and so forth, but could be anyone. And in this case, I would like to use an API-based information. So basically pull the information programmatically. So I could save daily snapshots of the trades in order to, in the long run, evaluate Kpler's prediction regarding, for example, let's say the Chinese crypto import in November 2020 versus what was realized and what actually has been announced on the November 1st. Okay, so really looking back a bit of the data in point, basically timing point. Looking backwards, but looking at the prediction. How we would do that, Gaspar?
So you solved it already. We are going to go through the API. Why the API is because the web application is giving you the last information available, as well as the Excel and as well as the API. But with the API, you can store this information, take snapshot daily, and be able to look at what it was back. So first thing first, what's an API? So an API stands for Application Programming Interface, and those are all about communication. It's a set of definition and protocols for service to talk to each other. And very roughly said, it's a way for your data lake, data store, data warehouse, whatever you're building, to communicate with ours. And through what endpoints. So if you're interested in the trades, you look for the trade endpoints. If you want the fleet metrics, you go through fleet metrics, etc. So in this case, we have built a database pulling the API with all the trades every 2 days and to check on these Chinese imports. So here it's just a quick presentation of what it looks like. So we have a snapshot date, and there are all the information that we were willing to use for the on the trade document that is available through Get Trades on the API. And here is just a number of trades concerned by the pool daily. So it's about 200,000, more than 200,000 trades for crude that we pulled each day. Now, very quickly, it's about the SQL function that we, the SQL script that we might to get the value. So now it's about what was the estimate at the very beginning of November. So on the 1st of November, what was Kpler announcing for the Chinese imports of crude? So it's 325 million barrels. So now how this forecast is evolving through time, because as Clark said, we receive and Kpler is proceeding so many position, external data, new snapshot, new IS. And this is why the forecast is evolving. And now what is realized? So how many trades eventually reach, how many vessels eventually reach China, how many trades were finalized in November, and so making up for these delivered trades and the realized imports of China. So this is, it's great to construct these databases, but it's not really super straightforward to use. So it's good if you know how to use SQL. But let's say you are not an SQL player, or you do use SQL, but you want to have graphs or whatsoever, SQL ID is not meant for it. So here we're just willing to show how it can be used. It's one of the many examples of how we could be using this database. So we are going to connect Excel to the database with GeoDBC Wizard Manager. And so here we just paste the query. We do it for the 3 queries that we presented. And at the end, we are able to very quickly have our graph. So here in gray, it's what Kpler planned for the Chinese imports. the 1st of November. In orange is the evolution of this of the prediction of these imports in November, and in blue is what has been realized. So now we could be using one of our multiple endpoints to understand the why. It's could be congestion, could be a storm, it could be whatever. But this is one of the example of how we could be using the API to extract the data and to just keep looking at it over time.
So before we move to the next use case, I would like to comment on the fact that I'm quite glad that we're quite spot on onto the realization of the prediction versus the what we predicted versus the realization. So that shows one thing: a good quality of data. So that's great. That's amazing, Gaspar. But what's even more important here is that you have the ability to really integrate and pull those data out of our data environment at Kpler and basically make it and put it in every environment that you have and you want. And that's extremely important. So what you have seen is how you could fairly easily, when you know how to use an API, basically extract the data, store them into a database, and then query them the way you want. And again, it's all about doing it on your own term and how you want it. So now let's look at the last use case. And this time around, I'm going to take the hat of a data scientist or data engineer or analyst. And I am a very visual person, and I would like to be able to see the heat map of basically the evolution through time of the, for example, the LSFO floating storage in, let's say, Malacca Strait. Right, and how we could segregate basically the Malaysian-based floating storage and the Singaporean-based one. It's very specific, but remember, Gaspar, I'm trying to model and trying to understand the various trends, right, and use my models the way I code it and the way I want to visualize it. So how to best do that?
It's a good one. So to visualize, so for the structure, it's because of the IMO 2020, we are going to look at this. And from your need, you need to have a map and you need to extract the floating storage quite fast. And so to do so, we are providing this new product of ours that we are very, very happy to release today. So which is our SDK in Python. So what's an SDK? Here, a very quick definition as well. So SDK stands for Software Development Kit. So it's an SDK, it's a toolbox of code calling for the API so that you can use the data directly in your code. What's great with the API is that you can pull all of these trades, all of these data, and you'll get this huge data set. But the output here with Kpler, it's in CSV. So in order to use it in your Python code, you would need to extract the CSV, open it, and do all the Python operation around it. With the SDK, we are doing that for you, and you just have to basically wonder of how you're going to, what you're going to pull. So fleet metrics in this case, and that's about it. It's a few lines of code. So example, how to get the fleet metrics directly in your code. So we are going to import the Kpler libraries and the fleet metric class here. So here we go. Then the configuration setting for fleet metrics. What we're into is here, it's Malaysia and Singapore Republic. So the countries looking for LSFO, floating storage in tons on a weekly basis. And since mid-2019, we are going to split by currencies because we want to see the difference of what was in Malacca Strait and what was in Singapore Strait. And quite like that, you have the data. The result is a data frame. And Python is great in the way that it has so many libraries out there. Then there is this one, Folium, that we are going to use here, that allowing us to draw things on the map. And just like that, we are going to have your heat map. So this heat map is how the floating storage is evolving in the area. And as you can see, by the end of 2019, there has been a ramp up in Malacca Strait floating storage for LSFO. And since then, everything shifted to Singapore. And just like that, it was a few lines of code, and I was able to draw this live animation after a few lines of code.
Well, I have to say one thing. It's very, very nice and very sexy, Gaspar. Being a data nerd myself, I do appreciate visualization, good visualization, good mapping. A quick question about that. Any library other than, like, for example, the one you are using here can be used, and our data are compliant with any library? Could you specify a bit on this?
Yeah, you can use Panda, you can use any library that are out there, and I mean, our library is now one of the many that are available in the Python environment. So it can be used with everything. So the output are data frames from our endpoints, and it integrates well with a lot of outside libraries.
Thank you. And before we move to the conclusion of this webinar and the question, I would like also to summarize a bit what we've seen here very, very quickly, without having to write too much code. We pre-wrote it for this example, but as you can see, it's not that many lines. It's fairly easy. You could directly access the data. You could basically plot them and do whatever you want with the data, so to better understand the insight and present it the way you want as well. And in the long run, basically build up your library of models and data models if you want to do machine learning on our data and so forth. So it's really opened up a lot of capabilities. One thing I would like to mention, it was written on the slide, but the SDK is part of any API subscription. You have the API subscription, you are using already the API, you already have access to our API, you have access to the SDK as well, and it comes with a very extensive and very well-written documentation. So you will receive anyway an email about it tomorrow. Once we release, we also put actually the recording of this webinar into the email, and you'll be able to test it and access it and provide us feedback. So now, to conclude, I'd just like to come back to these pictures. So what did we show you? We showed you that, first of all, by understanding the way you work and the way you organize your data and your system, right? We can best answer your query of basically integration of Kpler's data into your workflow the way you want, and how basically you want to derive the information. We showed you things around the web application to the add-in, then the add-in only, then the API access for data management, basically, and data query, and then the SDK for more proprietary type of algos and models. The other things you see here written that we didn't talk about are marketplaces and live feed. So for that, this is a teaser for Q1 next year, and I'll strongly invite you to come back to us just after the holiday season to basically discuss a bit more about what do we mean by live feed, what are we gonna make available there, and what do we mean by marketplace. So stay tuned for next year. Those are some of our surprise, which won't be surprising anymore, but this is a nice teaser for you. And if you have any question now, we are gonna open the Q&A. So I invite you to start to submit your question in the Q&A options at the bottom of your screen, and we'll start to answer. So Gaspar, we have already an answer here. Where we'll be able to download the SDK, will it be available through pypy.org? So as an installer, for example.
Yeah, you'll receive the documentation, and you can just pip install Kpler.sdk, and here you go. That's simple as that.
So we will have a pip file, basically. Yes, we will have a pip file. It's the .p. It's and it's going to be available through pypy.org there. Is there any other questions? Do we provide training, and can we provide some support onto while we are learning about it, and basically how to best access the support for that to get up to speed with all those informations, Gaspar?
So you're always very welcome to contact us through cs.kpler.com, and we are happy to help you to see how you can integrate, what is the best solution to integrate our data, how to do so. So we can do very spot on things. So just contact cs.kpler.com, and we'll reach out to you.
Thank you, Gaspar. We have a more specific question here around, since Kpler ideas for port calls and trades change over time, can you provide us with the list of keys to use to maintain an internal database? So if someone wants to maintain an internal database, what would be basically the key best practices? So go ahead, Gaspar, and then after the complement answer.
It's a good one. So we've been working intensively on this over Q4. So how to stabilize the trade ID. I know it's a wide question for everyone out there who is using our API. How to keep the ID, the IDs basically not for it to be deleted and a new one to be created, even though the trade looks quite similar. So we've done quite a work on this. So now it's really more stable. And so it's very free to use. If you're using the trade specifically, you can be using our two new endpoints, which are Trade Snapshot and Trade Updates. As Trade Update is providing you with all the operation to run onto your local database and which trades are to update with what information. So it's work with the pair trade ID, product ID. And by using so, you receive this couple is to be updated with that, this one has to be inserted and all the related information, or this one has to be deleted. I hope it answered the question.
Thank you, Gaspar. I will add also, if you have specific needs around this and you want to have us to basically guide you through, you can contact indeed your customer support specialist. Or if you really want to have and provide us feedback directly, Gaspar, our product managers, and even myself would be happy to have a call with you. So don't hesitate to reach out your customer success specialist, and then we will basically join you as well in the call if necessary. So there is another question. Is LNG vessel matcher capability on the web also available through API? So, sorry?
Go on, Clerk.
Go ahead, Gaspar.
Oh, no,
So our product manager for freight is not there. Specifically there, I think I'm not too sure, personally, I'm not too sure I understand exactly if it's the capability of the vessel matcher that you want through the API or just the data. So I suggest that you drop me an email. You can find me on LinkedIn, or we'll make you available the product email. But let's take it more separately so we can have a deeper dive on this specifically, so we understand exactly what you mean by available through the API. Thank you. Is there any other question? If there is no more question, I will thank you all for joining today and participating. And the recording will be put online by tomorrow, and you are going to receive the email about the new release of Python SDK as well very soon. So stay tuned, and thank you very much for all your participation and all your feedback. Have a very, very nice day and evening for everyone.
Thank you, everyone.